The Ottoman Times of Trouble, 1590 to 1650 Part 5. The first element in this was the outbreak of war with Venice. In July 1644, Maltese pirates had captured a ship carrying the former chief black eunuch of the harem and many others to Egypt. The Ottoman response was to construct a fleet which, observers believed, was bound for Malta. In fact, when the fleet emerged in 1645, its destination was Crete. The conquest of the island was, it seems, the particular wish of the Sultan and, as it lay on the route to Egypt, it was possible to blame the Maltese attack on the Venetians. With the advantage of surprise, the campaign opened successfully. In August, Hania fell and, in the following year, despite the change in fortunes among the faction in power, there were further victories. Mutual recrimination between the admiral, Yusuf Pasha, and the Grand Vizier, Sultan Zaid Mehmed Pasha, led first to Sultan Zaid's dismissal, and then to Yusuf Pasha's execution. Nonetheless, in 1646, troops on Crete under the command of Mad Hussein Pasha captured Apocharoni and then, after failing to take Ceuta, occupied Rethymnon. At the same time, Mad Hussein thwarted Venetian attempts to block the Dardanelles and establish themselves on Tenedos. In the summer of 1647, Heraklion came under siege. Mad Hussein's successes contrasted with the problems in the capital. The execution of Kemenkesh Mustafa had inaugurated a period of fierce competition for office, which coincided with a deterioration in the Sultan's state of mind. It seems probable that, at the time of his succession, Ibrahim's advisors knew his intelligence to be limited. A treatise on government which the advice writer Kochibey wrote for him on his accession is composed in appropriately uncomplicated language. The particular trigger for his insanity, however, seems to have been the dynastic crisis which his brother, Murad IV, had bequeathed. Murad had died with no male heirs at a time when Ibrahim had no children of his own. If Ibrahim were to die childless, the dynasty would be extinct. His first duty, therefore, was to produce male heirs, and this he did with increasing appetite. Duty, however, turned to obsession and, as he withdrew into the private world of the harem, his whims began to undermine the empire. In 1647, he executed the Grand Vizier, Salih Pasha, accusing him of not enforcing his ban on carriages in the capital. In Salih's place, Ibrahim appointed Musa Pasha, the husband of a favorite companion. However, before Musa could even reach Istanbul, the deputy Grand Vizier Hazar Pair, 1,000 pieces, Ahmed Pasha persuaded Ibrahim to appoint him in his place. In order to safeguard his own position, Ahmed Pasha pandered to the Sultan's whims, imposing, among other things, taxes to support his obsession with sable and ambergris. The Sultan's descent into madness coincided with a period of military and political crisis. In 1647, as Ottoman troops laid siege to Heraklion, the Venetians blockaded the Dardanelles, preventing supplies from reaching the army. Once the Ottomans had lost the element of surprise, it had become clear that the Venetians were superior at sea. Having mastered the art of constructing galleons, they enjoyed an advantage, particularly in naval artillery, over the Ottomans, whose war fleet still consisted almost entirely of oared galleys. On land, too, the Venetians made advances. In Dalmatia, the Governor-General of Bosnia failed to capture Zadar and Svebenik, while the Venetians overran a number of fortresses on the Bosnian frontier. In 1647, at a time when the blockade of the Straits was causing food shortages in Istanbul, the Grand Vizier, Ahmed Pasha, refused admission to the palace to the Governor-General of Roumelia, who was bringing news of the Venetian conquest of Klis. The Sultan's recklessness at a time of crisis led to a revolt. In 1648, on receiving a command to pay a large sum in festival tax, the Governor-General of Shivas, Varvar Ali Pasha, rebelled. His additional grievance was the practice of removing governors from office before the completion of their 3-year term. The rebellion was not successful. Varvar Ali overcame one government force, but suffered defeat and execution at the hands of Ibishir Pasha. It was, in the end, an uprising within the capital that overthrew the Sultan. In 1648, a Venetian fleet successfully blockaded the Dardanelles, and prevented the admiral, Amr Zaid, from transporting supplies to Crete. He paid for his failure with his life. In June, an earthquake shook Istanbul, which many took as a sign of divine anger. Then in August, the Janissary commanders asked the chief mufti, Abdurrahim, for a fatwa justifying the execution of the Grand Vizier. The mufti did as they wished, and then, with this justification, the plotters deposed and executed the Grand Vizier and then the Sultan himself. Ibrahim's successor was his 7-year-old son, Mehmed IV, 1648-87. At the boy Sultan's accession, The most influential figure in the government was his grandmother, Kosum Sultan. Her reign ended with her murder in 1651, probably at the instigation of Mehmed's own mother, Turin, who assumed the rulership on behalf of her son. In 1656, after a period of political instability, and at a moment of mortal danger following the Venetian annihilation of an Ottoman fleet at the Dardanelles, Turin surrendered much of her own power to an elderly and almost unknown provincial governor whom she appointed as Grand Vizier. Her perception was remarkable. Kuprulu Mehmed Pasha and, after him, his son Fazil Ahmed, revived the fortunes of the empire, bringing not only political calm, but also military success. It was Fazil Ahmed who brought the Cretan War to a victorious conclusion in 1669. This period was to last until the decision, in 1683, to besiege Vienna. Not only did the siege fail, but it led directly to the formation of the Holy League, a coalition of anti-Ottoman powers. In the 16-year war that followed, the Ottoman Empire suffered defeat on land and sea. By the Treaty of Karlowitz in 1699, the Sultan ceded Hungary to the Austrians, and Athens and the Peloponnesos to Venice. Within 15 years, the empire had recovered the lost territory in Greece, but Hungary, the most prestigious conquest of Suleiman the Magnificent, was lost forever. Besiege Vienna. Not only did the siege fail, but it led directly to the formation of the Holy League, a coalition of anti-Ottoman powers. In the 16-year war that followed, the Ottoman Empire suffered defeat on land and sea. By the Treaty of Karlowitz in 1699, the Sultan ceded Hungary to the Austrians, and Athens and the Peloponnesos to Venice. Within 15 years, the empire had recovered the lost territory in Greece, but Hungary, the most prestigious conquest of Suleiman the Magnificent, was lost forever.